Have you ever stood in the kitchen looking down at a snack in your hand and asked yourself, is this actually good for me? Or am I just going along with what used to be healthy? You're not alone. After 65, our bodies don't always follow the same rules they did in our 30s or even our 50s. Foods that used to give us energy can now leave us feeling sluggish. Things we once digested without a second thought might now cause bloating, joint pain, or even a sleepless night. So today, we're going to talk about something simple, something small, that can have a surprisingly big impact on your health. Nuts. Yes, the little crunchy snacks you might toss into your salad or nibble on during a TV break. But here's the thing. Not all nuts are created equal, especially when you're over 65. Some are absolutely packed with benefits your body craves, like brain support, heart health, and keeping your joints moving. Others, not so much. In fact, a few can silently sabotage your health in ways you wouldn't expect. So in this video, we're diving into 4 nuts you really should be eating regularly, and 4 you might want to steer clear of altogether. No scare tactics, no guilt, just real practical tips to help you feel better, stay sharp, and enjoy life with more energy and less pain. Let's start with one of the best, and it might surprise you. Have you tried walnuts recently? These aren't just for banana bread anymore. Walnuts are one of the top nuts you can eat if you're looking to support your brain, and at our age, that's no small thing. They're rich in something called omega-3 fatty acids, which act like fuel for your brain cells. Studies show that people who include walnuts in their diet tend to have better memory, sharper thinking, and even lower risk of dementia. And the benefits don't stop at your brain. Walnuts are great for your heart, too. They help reduce inflammation, lower bad cholesterol, and even improve circulation. But here's what I love most. You don't need a ton. Just a small handful a few times a week can make a real difference. Add them to your oatmeal, toss a few into a salad, or even blend them into a smoothie. And if your teeth aren't fans of crunching on whole nuts, try soaking them in water. Overnight. They'll soften right up and still give you all those benefits. Now, before we move on, let me just say I get it. A lot of people worry that nuts are too fatty or will make them gain weight. But the truth is, healthy fats like the ones in walnuts actually help keep your metabolism steady and your appetite under control. So don't be afraid of the fat if it's the right kind. All right, let's talk about another nut your body will thank you for: almonds. These little guys are like a multivitamin in a shell. First off, they're loaded with vitamin E, and if you've never paid attention to vitamin E before, now is the time. It's a powerful antioxidant that helps protect your cells from damage and supports skin health, eye health, and even your immune system. And for those of us noticing a bit more sagging skin or those fine lines creeping in, almonds can offer some gentle support from the inside out. Almonds are also great for blood sugar control, which becomes more important with age. If you've ever had those mid-morning energy crashes or felt shaky before lunch, almonds can help keep your energy more stable. Just a handful as a snack can help you feel full longer and avoid the urge to reach for sweets later in the day. 1 trick I often share with friends: keep a little jar of raw almonds in your car or purse. When you're out and about and need a quick pick-me-up, they're a much better choice than whatever's sitting in a vending machine or convenience store. And again, if chewing is an issue, almond butter is a great alternative. Just make sure you get one with no added sugar or oils. Now, while we're on a roll talking about these health-boosting snacks, I want to bring up something important. Not every nut is your friend. In fact, some can quietly work against your body, especially if you're dealing with joint issues, high blood pressure, or trying to keep your weight in check. Let me give you an example: cashews. Now, I know what you're thinking. Cashews. Taste amazing. They're buttery smooth and feel like a treat, but that's kind of the problem. Cashews are one of the highest fat nuts, and unfortunately, a lot of that fat isn't the heart-healthy kind like you find in walnuts or almonds. Plus, most of the cashews we eat come heavily salted or roasted in oil, and that adds even more stress to your system. If you're watching your sodium levels, trying to avoid extra inflammation, or dealing with arthritis, cashews may be making things worse without you even realizing it. That occasional handful while cooking dinner or watching TV can sneak in a big dose of salt and fat that your body just doesn't need. And if you've ever felt a bit stiff or swollen the morning after snacking on them, you're not imagining. That's not to say you can never eat a cashew again, but it's about knowing what's helping your body and what's quietly holding you back. Because once you start paying attention, these little changes can lead to bigger improvements, more energy, better sleep, less joint pain. And speaking of sneaky troublemakers, there's another nut that often flies under the radar, especially because it's so trendy in health circles: Brazil nuts. These are the big ones that look a bit like puzzle pieces, and yes, they're packed with selenium, which your body needs in small amounts. But, and this is key, too much selenium can actually be toxic. And just 2 or 3 Brazil nuts can give you more than your daily limit. If you're someone who snacks mindlessly or adds a big handful into your mix without thinking, it's really easy to go overboard. The symptoms of selenium overdose aren't always obvious at first. Things like fatigue, brain fog, even brittle nails or hair loss. But over time, too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. So while 1 Brazil nut now and then might be okay, they're definitely a nut to approach with caution or skip altogether if you're unsure. So there you have it, some real food for thought, quite literally. We've touched on walnuts and almonds, the quiet heroes for your brain, heart and energy, and we've looked at a couple of nuts that might be doing more harm than good, like cashews and Brazil nuts. But there's more to explore, especially as we think about how these tiny foods fit into the big picture of staying strong, sharp and full of life as the years go on. There's just something powerful about a small food that can deliver such big results for your health. So now that we've talked about how walnuts and almonds can help sharpen your memory and strengthen your bones, let's keep going. Another nut that absolutely deserves a spot in your kitchen, especially if you're watching your heart and trying to keep your blood pressure in check, is the humble pistachio. Now, you might not think much of pistachios beyond the little green snacks in a bowl at a party. But don't be fooled. These little guys are loaded with potassium, fiber and healthy fats, and they've been shown to help lower cholesterol and improve blood vessel function. That's important at any age, but especially as we get older, and our arteries need a little extra TLC. What's also great is that pistachios are one of the lowest calorie nuts, so if you're trying to keep your weight steady, they can be a smart choice. And here's a tip: buy them in the shell. Why? Because the time it takes to shell each one actually helps slow you down and prevents overeating. Plus, it makes you feel like you're having more, which can be surprisingly satisfying when you're looking for a healthy snack. And don't worry if your teeth aren't what they used to be. You can always find pistachios pre-shelled or, say, even chopped up to sprinkle on yogurt, salad or oatmeal. The flavor adds a nice richness, and your heart will thank you for it. Now, let's switch gears for a minute. We've talked about a few nuts you definitely should be eating, but what about the ones you shouldn't? Because not all nuts are created equal. Some can do more harm than good, especially if you have certain health issues like high blood pressure, diabetes or sensitive digestion. One nut that tends to sneak into snack mixes and looks innocent but often isn't is the salted peanut. Now, before you toss out every jar of peanuts you have, hear me out. Peanuts on their own aren't necessarily evil. In fact, plain dry roasted peanuts can offer some protein and healthy fats. The problem is how they're usually prepared. Most peanuts you find on the shelf are coated in salt, roasted in unhealthy oils, or even dusted with sugary coatings. Now that's where the trouble begins. Too much sodium can raise your blood pressure, and if you're already dealing with hypertension or are on heart medication, that's not a risk you want to take. What makes it worse is that peanuts are one of those can't eat just one kind of snacks. Before you know it, you've downed 2 handfuls and pushed your sodium levels through the roof. And even unsalted peanuts can be an issue for some. Folks, they're technically legumes, not true nuts, and for some people they can trigger inflammation in the body or upset the digestive system. If you've ever noticed bloating, joint discomfort, or just that off feeling after snacking on peanuts, it might be your body's way of telling you to cut back. Now, another nut to be cautious with, especially if you're managing your blood sugar, is the cashew. They taste creamy, a little sweet, and they're very popular in nut blends, granolas, and trail mixes. But here's what many people don't realize. Cashews are higher in carbohydrates than most other nuts. That means they can cause your blood sugar to rise more quickly, especially if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic. And the way cashews are often prepared doesn't help. Like peanuts, they're frequently roasted in oils and salted. Some brands even add sugar or honey for extra flavor. That turns a potentially healthy snack into a blood sugar roller coaster. If you love the taste, it doesn't mean you have to give them up forever, but portion control becomes very important. A small handful once in a while, sure, but they shouldn't be your go-to daily snack. What you really want to look for in your diet now is consistency, predictable energy, balanced nutrients, and foods that work with your body instead of against it. That's why focusing on the right kinds of nuts and knowing which ones to skip isn't about being extreme. It's about being wise and making choices that support the life you want to keep living fully, not just get through. Let's also take a moment to talk about how these nuts fit into your day. It's not just about what you eat, but when and how. Adding a few walnuts to your breakfast gives your brain a head start for the day. A handful of almonds mid-afternoon can keep your energy up without the crash that comes from sugary snacks. And tossing some pistachios on your evening salad or pairing them with a little fruit can be a satisfying way to end the day without turning to cookies or chips. But while some nuts help keep you strong and sharp, others, like overly processed peanuts and carb-heavy cashews, can quietly chip away at your progress. And sometimes it's not obvious until you start noticing that your energy's dipping, your weight's creeping up, or your blood pressure's being stubborn again. What I love about these small food tweaks is how manageable they are. You don't have to make sweeping changes or throw out everything in your pantry overnight. Just begin by choosing one of the good nuts and finding a spot for it in your day. You might be surprised how quickly your body responds when you give it the right kind of fuel. And keep in mind, if you've had a bad experience with a certain nut in the past, whether it gave you heartburn, a headache, or just didn't sit well, that's okay. Not every food works for every person. The key is paying attention to how your body feels. That's the wisdom that comes with age, learning to trust what your body's telling you and not just following every new diet trend. So, now that we've looked closely at pistachios, peanuts, and cashews, it's clear that not all nuts should be treated the same. Some are powerhouses, others not so much. But we're not done just yet, because there's still another nut you really should be adding to your diet, and one more that might be doing more harm than good. Let's keep going and uncover the last of these health-boosting and potentially harmful nuts you'll want to know about. Okay, we've already talked about 3 of the best nuts for people over 65: walnuts, almonds, and pistachios, and 2 that might be better left on the shelf: salted peanuts and carb-heavy cashews. But now, let's talk about a nut that often flies under the radar and might just be one of the most underrated options for seniors. You might not see Brazil nuts in every snack mix, but if you care about immune health, thyroid function, and fighting inflammation, this is one nut you definitely want in your rotation. What makes Brazil nuts so powerful is their selenium content. Selenium is a trace mineral your body needs in small amounts, but it plays a huge role in keeping your immune system strong and your cells protected from damage. Here's the wild part. Just one Brazil nut a day gives you more than your daily requirement for selenium. That's it, just one. It's that concentrated. Now, why does this matter if you're over 65? Because as we age, our immune system naturally slows down. We don't bounce back from colds as fast, and healing can take longer. Selenium helps support immune response and protects the thyroid gland, which controls your metabolism. A healthy thyroid keeps your energy stable, your weight in check, and your body temperature balanced, things that can start to wobble with age. But be careful, more isn't better here. Brazil nuts are not a snack you want to eat by the handful. Too much selenium can cause nausea, brittle hair or nails, and even toxicity over time. Stick to 1, maybe 2 per day, and you're golden. Now on to the final nut you should think twice about. I know. Macadamias are delicious. They're buttery, they melt in your mouth, and they show up in those fancy cookies or tropical trail mixes. But here's the deal. Macadamia nuts are one of the highest fat and highest calorie nuts out there. Just a small handful can pack 200 calories or more, and they're not always balanced with fiber or protein to slow digestion. Now, fat isn't the enemy. Healthy fat, like in walnuts and almonds, can be great. But macadamia nuts are often roasted in oils and come heavily salted, which makes them really easy to overeat and hard on your blood pressure and waistline. Plus, they're low in protein, which means they're not the best at curbing hunger. You eat them, feel satisfied for a minute, and then boom, you're hungry again. That can lead to grazing, snacking, and packing on pounds without even realizing it. So unless you're tracking your portions carefully, macadamias might not be the best fit, especially if you're watching your weight or cholesterol. Let's do a quick recap, because it's a lot to remember. Nuts you should eat if you're over 65. Walnuts for brain and heart health, and almonds for bone strength and digestion, and pistachios for cholesterol, blood pressure, and weight control. Brazil nuts for immunity and thyroid support, but only one per day. Nuts you might want to avoid: salted peanuts, high in sodium, may trigger inflammation. Cashews, high in carbs, can spike blood sugar. Macadamia nuts, high in calories and low in protein, and watch out for any nut roasted in bad oils or coated in sugar. So the next time you're reaching for a snack or planning your meals, think about the small choices that add up. A handful of the right nuts can help you stay sharp, mobile, and feeling good into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. And remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about knowing what works for your body, making smart swaps, and giving yourself the best shot at a healthy, energized life. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you, hit that like button, subscribe for more smart health tips, and share it with someone who's also over 65 and wants to feel their best. See you in the next one, and until then, stay strong and snack smart.